Hello and welcome to Mum's Got Game. My name's Keza Macdonald. I am the video games editor at The Guardian. I'm also a mum. I have two small children and one teenage stepson who's a very, very keen gamer. And I'm here with my new friends, Anne and Ruth. Anne is the mother of Benji, who is a 16-year-old pro gamer, a Fortnite pro. And Ruth is mother to Ethan, who is one of the sidemen, a pro YouTuber. We're here to talk a little bit about the relationship between gaming and parenting and how mums can help understand and engage with their kids who play games. And yeah, that's enough for me for now. I think I will ask Anne if you could introduce yourself and your family for everyone.
Yes, certainly. So as you said, my name's Anne and I'm the mum and also manager now of Benji, who is a pro Fortnite player for Energy Esports.
And Ruth, can you introduce yourself and your family?
Yeah, I'm Ruth. I'm Ethan Payne's mum, otherwise known as Behzinga, and 1/7 of the Sidemen, and his documentary, How to Be Behzinga.
Brilliant. I find that sometimes when I talk to parents, there's a bit of a lack of understanding about what their kids are actually getting out of games. As part of our preparation for this chat, we did some research among some gamers, some younger gamers, and the main thing that came out of it was that people play to relieve stress and have a good time and relieve anxiety. And for mental health reasons is like one of the major benefits that especially teenagers can get out of games. And then another one was the ability to connect to friends, which of course has been especially important during lockdown this year. I feel like the social aspects of games is something that's not necessarily always understood. There's that stereotype, isn't there, of the boy alone in his bedroom, just sitting by himself playing games. But that's not really what it's like, is it? What was your experience of the social side and the social side of gaming?
Yeah, so he formed great friendships, obviously. Business skills and to email and to talk to people, to come out of his comfort zone, talking to strangers. Ethan was never one to talk on the phone, whereas now he talks to audiences through the social side of that. He's gained confidence in speaking to other people. I think as well, they get to form friendships that are outside of their schools, the people with probably the same interest in what they've got, not just the normal school hobbies.
And what have been your experiences of the social side of video games for Benji?
Very much similar to sort of Ethan. Benji has got a very good friend group that that they support each other, talk to all the time. He has grown in confidence, from he's doing a lot of streaming now. It's a great community, and when we go to the LAN tournaments, we get to meet a lot of the his friends and things. So yeah, it's brilliant.
Ruth, I understand that loud chatting at 3 a.m. into a headset might have been a bit of an issue for you at one point.
Yeah, so Ethan being obviously in a collective group, there is 7 of them playing. He's exceptionally famous for his laugh, and playing once they finished college or they finished university or whatever it was they was doing, tended to go into the night. And then, of course, playing people from around the world. So their daytime is our nighttime. Not that Ethan ever knew it was nighttime. So yeah, 3 o'clock in the morning, and you'd get the Behzinga laugh. So yeah, quite interruptive.
I have a similar sort of issue with Benji. So he is very loud. And actually, it reminded me of something that one of our neighbours spoke to me a couple of months ago, and they heard this shouting. Thinking that someone had fallen into the river, because we live on an island sort of by the Thames. So they actually thought that someone was in trouble.
Yeah, my neighbours had to come and knock as well.
I mean, that can be one of the frustrations of gaming in family life. Like sometimes, kids get really into games. They're really fun. Kids get really into it. When you're yelling at your 11-year-old to turn off bloody Call of Duty or Fortnite or whatever it is to come and eat their dinner, it can get quite frustrating. Did you ever find that games impacted your family life? How did you manage that, Ruth?
Yeah, it did impact. I mean, Ethan went through quite a long time of not actually coming down to eat his dinner, so I was more taking it upstairs to him. So other than that, it didn't really impact on our lives. No, it was nice to hear him laughing, nice to know that he had a huge friendship group and that he was following his dream.
How about you, Anne?
It hasn't really affected it too much. I think when they're younger, it's much easier. So you can sort of like, from parents, they can sort of set boundaries. So, this is, when you're at school, this is when you need to come off of, your games and things like that. But for Benji now, being a professional player, everything sort of revolves around that.
I think like setting boundaries you're right, it does become more difficult when they're teenagers. For my family, games are a thing we have in the living room, so that even if I'm not playing, when my stepson was younger, even if I wasn't playing with him, I'd be seeing what he was playing and staying kind of connected to his interests in video games. And for my little kids, when they get a bit older, it's going to be a family activity. I will get them into Zelda. If they don't play Zelda, I'm going to be disappointed as a mother.
No, I have played Zelda before. I enjoy Zelda. Wasn't very good at it, but I did play it. Yeah.
Well, there are loads of games that are excellent to play as a family. If you're interested in playing games yourself, if anyone watching is interested in maybe getting into games rather than just understanding why their kids play them, then Nintendo games are always great for playing together. There's usually a way of, if not actively playing, just watching sometimes can be really fun as well. And especially with littler kids, when you have to set firm boundaries, because little kids can't control their gaming or anything they do that they enjoy. If you let them eat snacks all day, they would. And if you let them play games all day, they also would. So having it as family time can be a way to feel like you're getting a bit more out of game time, I think, especially with smaller ones. All the main console makers, Sony, Nintendo, Microsoft, and on PC, there's always parental controls and parental tools that can be used, not just to like limit screen time. I think a lot of people think of security and safety around games as just limiting screen time. But actually, these days, there's an awful lot more granular stuff that you can do. You can make sure that your child can only speak to people that are on their friends list, for instance, rather than just anybody that they might encounter in a game. There's lots of security checks you can do for your card details for any purchases. You can make it so that on the PC or the Xbox, you have your phone and you can just, is this an approved purchase? Yes or no, so that your kid can't spend £500 on FIFA points without your knowledge, and also so that other people can't make transactions on the card. So there's a lot of ways to keep safe online now. I think that the tools that are available now are a lot better than they were certainly when I was growing up, when I think my parents had no idea what was going on online at all.
So because Ethan used to accumulate a lot of money a month on my card without my knowledge until the bill came, that was why he gifted me my car.
It can all work out in the end, right?
Yeah. Thanks to him, I now drive a luxury car, so perhaps those points were worth it.
We have had problems in the past with like PayPal being hacked and things, and sort of or money stolen. And so what I used to do for Benji was you can get some of these prepaid cards. So like I used to use Osper, for example, and you can then preload that. So therefore your own credit cards and things for buying these, Microsoft points or whatever it is safe, sort of it's not linked to anything. So if someone does get the information, so that was quite useful. And I also used to, similar to what you said, I used to have him gaming in the main living area so that I could sort of hear what was being said. And I also used to get Charles to go online and listen to make sure he wasn't being bullied or there wasn't anything sort of happening online. Parents in general, you never get that much out of your teenager. I know I don't out of Benji. If I ask him a question, I get sort of like a one-word answer. But if you can find out what game that they're playing, then I would do a bit more research online so that you can actually sort of talk to them in more of a meaningful way and have more of a conversation. I get approached by a lot of teenage children saying that their parents don't really understand what they're doing, etc. I think it's up to them to sort of try and show them a little bit about what the opportunities are within gaming so that they can understand it a little bit more. For parents, I mean, yeah, there's still this big stigma about children that, about gaming in general, and that parents don't really understand the fact that there are all these transferable skills that they're learning, which will help them within a future career.
Did you find it difficult to speak about games with Ethan as well, Ruth, or was it a bit easier?
No, because it's a different collective of games for Ethan. So his favourite was Need for Speed. He played that for years and years, hence now owning a GTR that spits flames, the same as the game. GTA, Colin McRae rally driving, Tony Hawk skating, and then of course FIFA, which all the boys played and led to crossbar challenges forming in 2014. So he always just played anything, speedy, really. So yeah.
Were you ever just baffled by his gaming taste?
Only when he decided that if he didn't succeed at school, he'd be a professional sniper.
I have to say, I find my stepson's taste in games completely bizarre. Like, since he was about 8 years old, I remember when he was little, he used to play the licensed Spider-Man games just over and over and over and over again. And I got so sick of it that I was like, look, I found this new game. It's called Minecraft. This was slightly before it took off. And he and I had this wonderful few months where we would like explore together and build things and, you know, get a little bit further in the game every time we played. And it was really cherishable. And then, of course, everybody else got into it. All his friends got into it and he didn't want to know anymore. Like, the idea of playing a game with me was suddenly embarrassing and terrible. Yeah, my stepson mostly plays competitive shooters, which is not my kind of thing at all. But thing is, if he was really into rugby, I'd learn about that too. You know, I'd have to learn something about it, no matter what it was. Even if I found it extremely boring, I would probably try and learn a little bit about it so that I could connect with him on it. And I do hope my two little sons have gaming taste a bit more in line with my own, because like I say, my dream is just being able to play Zelda for 3 hours on a Sunday with no one shouting at me to do something else. It'd be great.
Yeah. Although we did buy the DJ game where you had 2 turntables and you used to do mixing. I did get involved in that one.
All right, okay.
DJ Hero, brilliant game.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, that's it.
I actually loved that game. I got really worryingly good at it.
Yeah, I was quite good at that one.
So, and Benji, obviously he's still school age now, and he was certainly still at school age when his career took off and he started making it as a pro gamer. How did that conversation go for you? How did you handle his education alongside his burgeoning career in games?
It was very challenging. To start with, we were trying to juggle the school and him gaming. So there was always lots of issues because he needed to stay up late in the evenings. And then once he'd qualified for the World Cup last year and also signed for Energy, we then went to the school to see whether there was any way of juggling the school, whether they could let him have time off to be able to practice in sort of like a boot camp sort of type of idea, or whether we could reduce things down to sort of like the core subjects. But that didn't prove to be possible. So I made the decision to actually take him out of school and homeschool him. We've put a sort of temporary halt on education. So it's a bit like taking a gap year early, and then, you know, he can go back to studying at a later stage.
It's worth mentioning, of course, that in the esports world, your prime years are kind of 16 to 19-ish. Is that right? And after that, your career tends to move in a different direction. You tend to become a pundit or a shoutcaster. You don't tend to play because your reflexes do start to, they're not quite at their peak when you're past your teens. Quite like when you're a football player, there is a level of peak fitness ability that you have to take advantage of, right?
Yeah, very much so. The reaction time and things when you're age sort of 14 to 18 is much faster, and most of the pro Fortnite players certainly are sort of 15, 16, 17-year-old. That is when they're sort of at their peak.
Ruth, Ethan was doing his college and education alongside YouTube. What did he study that helped his career out?
So Ethan done games development at South Essex College, which is in Grays. So it was learning the coding behind the games, graphic design for the game cases, production, editing, and of course he'd already excelled in that because he'd already got his YouTube channel, so that was already up and running, just as Behzinga, not necessarily Behzinga of the Sidemen at that time. So he was already had his own YouTube channel. So he excelled at Photoshop skills, so much so that one of the teachers asked him to hold the class.
Another thing that can become an issue as kids get older and start playing online and playing independently is unfortunately bullying and trolling. We found in our research that about 25% of US players had experienced some form of bullying or trolling online, and 20% in the UK. And of course, especially girls. There's also some dangers around things like cheating and ID theft, and staying safe in that way as well. Ruth, did Ethan ever have any experience with bullies or trolls in his time in the public eye online?
Yeah, so because he was, I would say, slightly overweight, I wouldn't say that he was exceptionally large. He was trolled. It wasn't bullying. He was trolled for being the biggest one of the sidemen, like big old bears, big bears. Look at the size of Bezzy's thighs. So yeah, he was constantly regarded as the biggest one of the sidemen.
And speaking as someone who's been on the sharp end of this, I'm a woman in video games, right? And I've been online for many, many years. So it doesn't matter what it is, they'll pick something. It can be your appearance, it can be, you don't know what you're talking about. No matter what it is, they'll find something, right, to zone in on if you're in the public eye.
Yeah, like Jessie Nielsen, she done the documentary on being bullied online. Because they're secret, keyboard warriors. Nobody knows who they are, so they just think they can get away with it. So I think certain words should be banned and not be allowed to be broadcast. I think we should have to give in passports or driving licenses or IP addresses, something that leads back to these trolls.
Yeah, I agree with you that the tech platforms, social media platforms especially, but also the gaming platforms could do a lot more to
Yes.
toxicity in gaming. I think that that's a big responsibility that the games industry and social media platforms really need to come together on.
Yeah,
I mean, some of the girls recently, I've you know, within the pro gaming scene, and some of the ones that are streaming have had problems with stalkers. You know, especially in, you know, yeah, worldwide really, but sort of in the US, UK, sort of, it's been a big problem.
I mean, there are organizations that are designed to help when this happens. There's the Bullying UK has a helpline for all kinds of bullying, including cyberbullying. And then if you're in the public eye, there are organizations that do help with pylons and things like that. But when it does happen, I feel like the support from supportive family and friends is really important. Was that important for Ethan as well?
Yeah, absolutely. So he's got the boys, obviously the sidemen are a huge support to him. They are literally his family. Luckily, he's exceptionally close with Josh, who's Zerka, and he talks to him in depth about any depression or worries, anxiety, and probably did talk to him a lot about the trolling. As mentioned in the Behzinga documentary, Josh did say he didn't realise that it was that bad until he realised as such, until Ethan transformed, and then they all understood and saw the bullying for what it was.
There can still be a perception that if you play games then you don't do anything else, right? Which really isn't true. Like, being into games doesn't preclude being into all sorts of other interests. It's not mutually exclusive. It's also not mutually exclusive with health and physical fitness. I don't think it's very well known, but if you are signed up as a pro gamer, all of the teams do a lot of work to make sure that the physical health and emotional health of their players is looked after. Sure, there's a lot of training playing online, but there's also a lot of like physical fitness training and making sure that people get outside and do everything they need to do to be a healthy person. Have you found that Energy have supported Benji with his physical fitness as well as his Fortnite training, Anne?
Very much so, yes. I mean, they help a lot. The only challenge we've got is the fact that obviously they're in the US and we're in Europe, so they don't actually have a house or anything like that over here. So from that aspect, but when these teams do have their houses, they set them all up with gym equipment. They have, some of them have chefs coming in to sort of, and you know, the whole healthy living. Benji recently has got a personal trainer, so he's sort of training 3 times a week with him, and then every other day he's, you know, training on his own, doing various workouts, and there's been a huge transformation, and it helps him both with his gaming but also his mental attitude, you know, being able to game for long periods of time, you don't want to be just sitting down there the whole time. You need to be keeping fit, keeping healthy. So yeah, they've helped a lot.
Yeah, I think it's a good thing to sometimes we have to insist on this as parents, but it's a good thing to make sure that you've got options, right? Like even if you're dead set on gaming being your career, if it doesn't work out, you want to have stuff in your back pocket. When I was 16, I left school. You can imagine how delighted my parents were. I skipped my last bit of my education and I went to work on a games magazine at the other end of the country. And I was 16 and a half years old. And my mum was like, right, we will support you in this, but you have to make me a pact that you will come back and you will do university, because I'd already got the qualifications. So that's what I did. I did a year on the magazine and then I went back and I did my degree as I'd promised. And I ended up choosing between a career in video games journalism and a career in academia. Thankfully, the games journalism worked out, but if it hadn't, I would have had other stuff going on. I think that's something that you can't necessarily have sight of when you're 15.
Yeah, much like Ethan. So when he wanted to give it up in the July, and yeah, the Sidemen created in the October, I had actually said to him, I will give you till January, and if this doesn't take off, you'll have to look at getting a proper job. But in hindsight, he hasn't got a job, it's a career. There's so many aspects of gaming that can be taken into a career. Like I said, the editing, the design, he's now been asked to host. He's done commentary for Sky Sports and he's been approached to do commentary on quite a few things. He was recently on Match of the Day. So again, the talking in public and talking to people, it's all built up his confidence in those aspects.
Yeah, that's something that I think is becoming more well known now, that there's actually a billion career opportunities in video games, whether you're wanting to be a YouTuber or a pro gamer, that's one thing. But then there's also music, there's art, there's development, there's coding, there's design, there's journalism, there's writing, there's narrative, like pretty much anything, marketing, pretty much anything that you could be into. There is a career in video games that involves those things. And especially when it comes to things like video editing, content creation, all of that is stuff that can be put to work in a games career as well. And actually, games careers are often pretty well paid. Not journalism, I'm just going to put that out there. If you ever want to get rich, don't be a journalist. But there are many other areas of the games industry, especially in coding and production and actually making games, that do pay pretty well. About 50% of the people we asked for our survey said that they reckoned their parents would be proud if they managed to make a career out of video games.
So again, within those careers, they can give back. So the Sidemen have held 3 charity matches, one being special effects for the disabled gamers, another one being Young Minds for mental health. So they donated to those, Childline and the Saints Foundation, which is Charlton Athletics' own charity. So they've given back through their careers in gaming, which has been phenomenal. They also all donate personally. Ethan has donated a lot to breast cancer charities and tends to always donate to the cancer charities because of our history. But yeah, they've done a lot, and that's all from gaming.
There's a lot of charitable activity in the esports world as well, isn't there? And I'm thinking especially of the charity Twitch streams, which always raise extraordinary amounts of money for various...
Yeah, very much so, yes. I mean, Benjy's taken part in quite a few of the charity matches, etc. Those skills that you learn do set you up. So if you do want to go into sort of becoming a content creator, having those skills to be able to do your Photoshop, the editing, rather than relying on other people, is huge. You know, it's sort of quite beneficial. And there are a lot of transferable skills that you can learn within esports, about leadership, about communication, as well as now quite a lot of the colleges and universities are doing courses. So you can learn about that production side, or like the whole business side of esports. So yeah, it's quite exciting to see how things are developing.
Yeah, definitely. So more so than when Ethan first started.
You guys and your sons are living proof, of course, that gaming can become a career. It can become even a very lucrative career, but it can also just be a fun thing that kids like to do, and that's fine too. Like, it doesn't have to be, you know, a productive career thing. Like, video games can just be something fun that people are into. But I think what really is important, and what I think you guys really embody, is supporting your kids in their passions, right? And no matter what their passion was, if it had been like with your older son, and if it had been music, or if it's art, or if it's sport, whatever it is, I feel like supporting your kid in their passion is really important, even if that thing is games and you might not understand it at first.
Yeah, the same with Ethan. So he was the hooker in the rugby team. So we used to travel with him when he played his rugby matches.
Yeah, and I think that's really what this is about, isn't it? It's about seeing games the same way as you'd see any other interest, and not necessarily as this potentially insidious force. I mean, sure, it's something that we have to manage as parents sometimes, whether it's about the amount of time playing or safety. It is stuff that we have to manage, but I think that's on us really as well. It's on parents to learn a little bit more, I think, and inform themselves, not necessarily be scared of games. You know, there's nothing to be scared of, is there? It's just something that actually can be really life enhancing, not just for kids, but for us too, if we make a connection over it.
Yeah, your cognitive behaviour and confidence is definitely brought out.
Well, thank you so much, Ruth and Anne. It's been really good getting to know you and hearing about your experiences and your son's experiences. I hope this can be the start of some really good conversations around gaming for some families out there who are watching. Obviously, we haven't had the chance to cover everything or solve every problem, but you know, it's good to start a conversation about this, and that's the most important thing. Hopefully, through hearing our experiences, you might be able to chat to your kids a bit more about games, especially as with everything going on right now, we're all kind of stuck indoors anyway, aren't we, a lot of the time? So what better time to have a chat?
Yeah, so now's the time to support them while they're gaming, because as we've covered, there's many career aspects that you can take forward. It's not just a hobby, there's massive learning potential within gaming. And yeah, while we're all indoors, get to sit with your children, ask them the questions, cover what they see for their future.
Yeah, and also sort of seeing if you can play some of the games with them, take part, learn a bit more about what they're doing. It's a brilliant opportunity at the moment.